Hey guys, welcome to part 6 and the final episode of the budget Jon Boat to bass boat build. In the last video we did the EVA foam, as you can probably see behind me, and today we're going to get the accessories mounted on there and we'll be ready to freaking fish. So let's show you what we're going to go over and mount up. Should be a fairly quick video, just kind of snippets of things going on. We have got to mount our seat so I can lean back actually and not fall out of the boat. Before, I just had this clamp thing here just kind of sitting on there, and I had it screwed down finger tight, but if you lean back it wants to pop off. So there is a bracket right here that comes with it, and we already have the main part of the bracket mounted on the seat. I'll insert that clip here. We've got to install this Jon Boat seat clamp with swivel on our Jon Boat. What this does, as you can see by the picture, it clamps on the metal bench for the Jon Boat, and it gives you a place to mount this seat. Pretty self-explanatory. 4 bolts go into the seat. This is a Bass Pro Shop high back seat, and it already comes with the bolts in it, so you just put the plate right there on that square part and you're good to go. Here's a quick look at the bracket so you can see kind of how it's made. It's got these plastic pads on there that keep this thing level on the Jon Boat bench, and then these guys just slide out like so, and of course you can adjust your clamping power right here with these little winglets. So winglets? It's not a winglet, wing nut. Alright, so pretty simple in case you've never seen how one of these Jon Boat brackets goes on the seat there. It's easy peasy. But this little bracket thing goes on the seat, or the bench here, and then it clips around this guy and allows you to not fall out of the boat, and you can lean back. So we got to mount that. You see we got our transducer here. Now we robbed our transducer from the Hobie. I decided to turn that into just a sailing adventure fun Hobie, and I will use the Garmin still. We've got the Garmin still mounted up here. I'll use it for navigation and stuff, but I'm not going to really be doing too much fishing off of this because we got a sick ass boat right now to go fishing in. So I'm going to steal the transducer instead of buying a whole new Garmin unit, and I'll jump ahead here to this cradle. I just bought a second cradle and a power cord. We're going to put the transducer on there, and then I'll be able to move my head unit from boat to boat for navigation and fish finding. So to do that, we have a track right here. It's a Scotty track that goes to the Scotty transducer arm. That's going to go back here. Now, I thought about, you know, doing an actual hull mounted transducer, and I might do it in the future, but for now, I do want to just kind of get it on there. And I will have a spot for accessories here anyway later if I decide to move it. So we're going to mount that. We got a new propeller for the trolling motor here. This is a Minn Kota Wedge 2. I've got some vibration at full torque on my trolling motor, so I figured why not change the prop. It's pretty beat up here, so you can see. I don't know if, well, you probably can't see because I'm doing this video right after the last video and it's starting to get dark, but we'll give you an update in the daylight. But we're going to put a prop on there, easy. These little guys here, these are 2 rod holders. We're going to do a 3 rod holder over here. We're going to do a 3 rod holder over here. And that way we can mount our rods and keep them on the boat. And then finally, we're going to be doing a battery box. And do I have the battery box? Here it is. So we're going to take our battery right here, our Amped Outdoor 60 amp hour lithium battery, and we're going to put it in this here waterproof box. And in order to do that waterproof box, then we're going to screw it down here somewhere, and then all of our wires will go in there, and it will be safe from the rain if we get out there on these 3 or 4 day camping trips and it rains in my boat. So we're going to do a car voltmeter. So a little voltmeter going to go on the top here somewhere so I know how much power is left. And we've got a fuse block that we're going to put in here. We're going to do a little wire shield, I guess you call them, a clamshell, on the side to run our wires in there. I was going to do a quick plug, but budget build, guys, budget build. So I didn't want to fork out an extra 30 or 40 bucks for a quick plug. And then I got to put the quick plug on the trolling motor. And I have to wire up the Garmin as well, and so there's just a lot of little quick plugs, and I didn't want to do that. So we've got some wire here that we can use for our fuse block, and then we're just going to run the wires in the box through the clamshell. It won't be 100% waterproof. You won't be able to throw the battery overboard, but it's going to be screwed down to the boat, and this top, it locks, so the battery, even if we capsize, should stay in here. It might get wet though. So that's what we got going on in this video. I hope the intro wasn't too long. I'm really trying to work on that stuff. And let's start mounting some stuff up, and I'll just show you when it's mounted up, because most of it's pretty simple, and you know, screws and nuts and bolts. So I think you can figure it out for yourself. You don't need my assistance. So when we get some stuff mounted up, we'll just click, click, click through there, and this video will be done, and so will the boat. Let's go. Woo! As you can tell, it's pitch black outside because it took me 2 hours to change the dang propeller here. So sorry for some night shots here. We used a drill. We broke a bunch of drill bits. We used a bunch of nails, WD-40, impact. We used all kinds of stuff because the shear pin was straight corroded, frozen in there, and it was like part of the propeller shaft. But we got the new propeller on there, and she seems to be a little smoother, but we won't know until we get force on it with the water. So I am going to work on some other stuff here. Like I said, doing the seat, screwing down these rod holders, not a big deal, right? All this is pretty easy stuff. But I'm going to do a little more work here, and I'll show you the finished product in the morning. All right, guys, this is the next day, and we're going to finish this build up here. Let me show you what I did last night in the dark. So we've got our rod holder installed here. Now I have 2 of these. I was going to do one on the other side, but opted not to. I normally only take 3 rods, but we'll see. I've got an extra set of rod holders if I decide I need them somewhere. But we got our rod holder screwed down here, and works out pretty good. I can reach them obviously from the chair. We got our chair installed. This is the bracket I was telling you about here, just to hold the seat and make sure that we are not going to move around. I can kick back and relax now. As I showed you in the super nighttime shot, we did get our new propeller installed. What a nightmare that was. The shear pin was literally just part of the propeller shaft. It was frozen in there. I had to drill it out, knock it out with a nail, all kinds of stuff. We got our transducer arm here mounted on the Scotty track that we just installed down here, and we mounted our cradle for the Garmin, so that's over here, and should be in a good position. I wanted to mount it kind of up and higher, and I might do that later, but for now I think it's going to be good there. I can sit in the chair, turn sideways, look at the Garmin, and control the trolling motor. Now what we've got to do is get some power to all this stuff. So we've got my power cable and stuff here, and we've got our battery, but we need to waterproof it in case it rains. Pardon the mess and the clutter. We're getting ready to work here, but we're going to be building this battery box. So I'm going to do some snippets here on how I'm building this battery box. It might not be the way you build it, but if you need a little insight on how to install a breaker and stuff like that, I'll try and do a clean job for you. So let's build this box. And then, guys, I think that's it. I think she's ready to fish. So let's get this battery box going here and finish this project up. All right, starting with the box here. This is a pure outdoor, essentially a camera case, got off of Amazon. And I think it was like 70 bucks or something. But what's great about it is it comes with all this tearaway foam. So you've got this breakaway foam stuff here that you can tear into any spot that you want. We don't really need most of it. What we need is the box. So we're going to take this out. Now we will use some of it after we get everything built, just to hold the battery from sliding around in here. But for now, we just want the box so that we can cut and do some damage. So you take all this foam out of here and we'll be ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill into the side of the box, one of the sides, probably the other side, and we're going to put this clamshell on there so that we can run our wires in there, and when it rains it'll keep the water off of the box. We've got our 50 amp fuse. My Garmin and trolling motor is 50 amp max on the trolling motor, so we're going to put this 50 amp circuit breaker in here. I said fuse circuit breaker, which is nice because if it pops, you don't have to replace a fuse, you just reset it. Got some connectors here. We'll go through soldering that up. We got this handy dandy little voltage meter. I've already plugged it into one of my other batteries, and it's pretty cool. Little blue readout just tells you what the battery voltage is, positive, negative. Super simple to install. Some really nice silicone wiring. This is tin wiring, so it is marine grade. And then we've got some extra connectors if we need them. So I'm gonna start wiring all this stuff up here and show you kind of some stages, and we'll be done here. Okay, I've already test fit our circuit breaker here, and it will clear in the top of the box. We got a little double-sided mounting tape there, and we're just going to stick it right here on top of the battery so that it doesn't slide around. Easy breezy. Now what we're going to do is wire the battery to the circuit breaker using our connectors here with a little solder and the wires. All right guys, what we're going to do is heat up our connector here. This is all 8 gauge, by the way. We're going to heat this up, and we're going to use the torch, fill it with solder, stick the wire down in there. So these are sealed, guys, and you can run the solder down in there, fill it up, kind of make a little pool. You want to heat this until it kind of starts changing color, and then test it with your solder. My solder is melting in there. Keep it hot. You can see the solder down in there too in your puddle, so you can make sure that your puddle is still a puddle. Don't worry about the flux burning, not a big deal. All right, we should have a decent amount of solder in there. Grab our wire. Gonna jam that wire down in there quickly, because if you put it in slow and it just barely touches it, the wire's gonna cool the solder down. All right? And we'll let that cool for a second, and then we'll do the other side. Gonna mark where we're gonna put our clamshell here for our wire entry. It looks like the hole's gonna be about right there. So we'll go ahead and just make a little mark with our drill. All right, we got our hole cut here. Now I'm not really worried about grommeting this thing because it's pretty thick plastic, and these wires are not going to be moving around too much because I'm going to screw the bottom of this box onto my back board there, my back flooring. So all we're going to do is mount our clamshell right here, and then we'll have a spot we can run our wires. Alright, as you guys saw, we put a little bead of silicone on our clamshell here just to give it a little extra water protection, though any water would be on the outside of the hole. And again, big old hole here, it's not 100% waterproof. Now we got our screws sticking out here. We're going to be, rooting around in and out of this box, and if the battery slides over, we don't want to puncture it. So what we're going to do is grab our grinding wheel, and we are going to grind these off flush with the box. Alright, we have ground our screws off flush with the box, put our battery back in here. We put one piece of thin foam from the kit down at the bottom for the battery to cushion. We're going to put our foam in the lid here, leaving this side with the extra piece of foam, leaving this piece of foam out because I want to make sure we got room for that breaker. Our clamshell's good. If you're wondering what these wires are already, this is just the charging plug that I'm gonna, keep attached. That way I can charge the battery. And next what we're gonna do is start wiring stuff up. Pretty simple. We're going to connect our jump wire here from the battery positive to this side. It tells you right on the breaker battery line and then auxiliary load. So make sure you put your battery line on the correct pole of the breaker. All right, we got our jumper wire installed here. Now if we go back, I have put connectors on the Garmin for hooking it up. And I started looking at my trolling motor batteries. You know, it's an old trolling motor, but these clips here, you know, they work, but you can see the wires kind of all chewed up and there's exposed wires. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip these off and I'm going to solder on 2 new brass connectors like we did before on the jumper. So I'm just going to solder that stuff up there, put new connectors on it, stick some foam in here, and then we'll hook everything up. Alright guys, you probably can barely see, but we drilled some pilot holes in the bottom of our box here so that inside we can see where those holes are for our screws that we're going to mount in the back there. So let me go ahead and mount this box, then we'll wire everything up and we'll be good. Doing a little silicone over the screws here before I put that foam in. That way, in case we do swamp out back here, water should not come up into the box. So a generous coating of silicone over the mounting screws. Putting probably a nickel size bead on here. Could have probably done it on the bottom too, but I think this will suffice. The boat is not leaking. If you saw in the previous video, one of the previous videos, so we should be okay. Man, I forgot the most fun part of the whole thing, and that's putting the voltmeter on the top of the box here. So I'm gonna pause before we hook this up, and even though the box is mounted, I'm gonna go ahead and drill a hole out here, probably over here, for my voltmeter, and put my little voltmeter in and get those jump wires constructed, and then we'll hook everything up and then we'll be done. Alright guys, you'll have to pardon the rain noise on the tent here. I got it all wired up here. I kind of punched it through the foam. So that's our gauge installed. And then we can kind of put our foam back here. I don't even really know why I've got the foam in here. It just seems like a good idea, I guess. Now we're going to wire this all up. Finally, now go through it all. We'll do some polarity testing, make sure that everything is good to go. And some voltage testing with the old voltmeter. We'll hook everything up and be good. Alright guys, we're all wired up here. It looks like a mess, but these 2 wires connected directly to the battery is for the charger. I don't know if I can charge through the circuit breaker, so I just have those directly to the battery. Anything that's running power goes through the circuit breaker though. So this is our trolling motor, this is our fish finder, and this is our voltage meter. And then all the grounds go to the ground. Pretty simple stuff. Only 2 more things to test. One, we know that our little voltmeter is working because we're hooked up. We're at 13.2 volts. I know you're upside down. Let's see if the circuit breaker works. So if we push the circuit breaker, we got power off. So we are good. Reset the circuit breaker, power back on. We are good to go. Let's close her on up here. Do a real quick trolling motor test. Trolling motor working. Fish finder we'll have to plug in and make sure it's working, but I'm sure it is. Everything should be good to go. Got a little cleanup to do, and then we'll do an outro. And there you have it, guys. The build is done. As far as how many days, took me about 5 days. Did it over a couple of weekends. But I hope you enjoyed following along while I built it. I hope you had as much fun as I did building it. Hope maybe I showed you a little tip or something. You know, maybe you learned something. If you could teach me something I did wrong, leave it in the comments. Also appreciate it if you drop a comment. Just let me know how you think I did. Don't worry, you won't hurt my feelings. Speak your mind, right? So if you like the build and you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm trying to get some of this stuff out on the YouTube algorithm, and just clicking that little thumbs up button would be appreciated. Also, if you enjoyed the build and you want to see more stuff like this, or want to see me go fish with it, go ahead and subscribe. But that's going to wrap up this build for us, man. I can't wait to get out on the lake and rip some lips off of some bass. I hope to see you on the water if you're local, and I will catch you on the next one.